If you've ever noticed that you feel responsible for how everyone around you feels, not just a little responsible, but deeply, almost automatically responsible. When someone is upset, your mind immediately starts scanning for what you might have done wrong. When a conversation becomes tense, you feel the urge to fix it, smooth it out, make things comfortable again. If someone is disappointed, you feel it in your body like it's your fault. And most of the time, no one even asked you to take that responsibility, but somehow it still feels like yours. What's strange is that from the outside, this behavior often looks like kindness. You're thoughtful, you're considerate, you pay attention to people. You notice when someone's tone changes. You notice when someone takes longer than usual to reply to a message. You notice when the energy in a room shifts slightly, and your mind quietly starts working in the background. Did I say something wrong? Are they upset with me? Should I fix this somehow? Small moments that other people move past quickly, your mind keeps analyzing. Not because you enjoy overthinking, but because somewhere along the way, your brain learned something important. Other people's emotions are your responsibility. And once that belief forms, it changes the way you move through the world. You start monitoring situations more closely. You think before you speak. You soften your opinions. You adjust your tone. You make sure no one feels uncomfortable because of you. And over time, something subtle begins to happen. Your attention slowly shifts away from yourself and toward managing everyone else's emotional state. You become the person who absorbs tension, the one who makes sure everyone else is okay, the one who keeps things stable. But here's the interesting part. Most people who feel responsible for everyone don't consciously decide to be this way. It's rarely a deliberate personality choice. It's usually a pattern that started much earlier, often in environments where emotional stability felt unpredictable. Maybe someone around you had strong reactions. Maybe conflict escalated quickly. Maybe someone's mood determined the atmosphere of the entire house. And when you're in an environment like that, your brain starts learning something very specific. Pay attention. Stay alert. Notice changes early. Prevent problems before they happen. Because if things go wrong, someone might get upset. And when you're young, the easiest way to deal with that unpredictability is to try to control it. Not by controlling people directly, but by controlling yourself. You become careful. You become accommodating. You become emotionally aware far earlier than most people. And that awareness slowly turns into a role, the stabilizer, the peacekeeper, the one who makes things easier for everyone else. And here's where it gets interesting. This pattern isn't really about kindness. Kindness might be part of it, but the deeper mechanism is something else. It's about control, not in a manipulative way. Control in the sense of emotional safety. If you can predict how people feel, you can prevent conflict. If you can keep people happy, you can keep the environment calm. If you can take responsibility for their emotions, nothing unexpected will happen. Your brain begins to believe that managing other people's feelings is the safest position to be in, because unpredictability once felt dangerous. So responsibility becomes a form of protection. And over time, that protection becomes part of your identity. You become known as the reliable one, the understanding one, the emotionally mature one. People come to you when they're overwhelmed, when they're confused, when they need someone to listen. And you're good at it. In fact, you're often very good at it because you've been studying emotional patterns for most of your life. But there's a quieter side to this role that people don't always see. When you spend so much energy managing other people's emotions, you slowly lose contact with your own. Not in a dramatic way, just in small, subtle ways. You hesitate before expressing frustration. You soften your reactions. You delay your needs. You convince yourself something isn't a big deal because keeping the emotional environment stable feels more important. And eventually, the line between empathy and responsibility blurs. You don't just care about how people feel, you feel accountable for it. even when it has nothing to do with you. Someone is stressed, you feel pressure. Someone is disappointed, you feel guilt. Someone is distant, you feel like you should fix it. And after a while, it stops feeling like a choice. It just feels like who you are. But once you start noticing this pattern, something becomes clear. You weren't born believing that everyone's emotions were your job. You learned it through experiences, through environments, through moments where staying emotionally aware felt necessary. It wasn't weakness, it was adaptation. Your mind was trying to create stability, trying to make the world predictable, trying to keep things calm. And when you look at it that way, the pattern makes a lot more sense. Because people who feel responsible for everyone usually spent a long time learning how to read the room, how to anticipate reactions, how to keep the emotional balance intact. It wasn't random. It was a survival strategy that slowly turned into an identity. And the strange thing about patterns like this is that once you see them, you start noticing them everywhere. In the way you respond to tension, in the way you replay conversations in your head, in the quiet pressure you feel to keep everyone okay. It was never just about being too nice. It was about understanding the role you learned to play. And once you recognize the role, you start to see how much of your behavior was shaped by it. Not because you had to, but because at some point it felt like the safest way to exist. And once you see that pattern clearly, you can't really unsee it. And that awareness alone changes the way you understand yourself. Because sometimes what feels like personality was actually protection all along. If this explains something you've quietly noticed about yourself, then there's a lot more beneath the surface worth understanding.